Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I've been spending the last few months with the 2025 Kawasaki KLX300 around the house. And this is a particularly interesting bike for not only off-road sort of riding, which we have done, and we'll show it off in our full review and comparison with the Honda CRF 300L, but this is also a very good real-world daily rider usable motorcycle, especially for somebody getting onto their first bike, maybe their first street bike, maybe their first dirt bike. Either way, you could absolutely use this as a daily rider bike. It's actually pretty comfortable being in the upright seating position. You can see around traffic really easily. If you do lay it down, you're going to have cheap parts for repairing. So there's a lot of argument to be made for using the KLX 300, even in its dual sport form here, as a daily rider bike. So in today's test, we're going to go out and see what sort of fuel economy you can expect if you're going to use your KLX 300 in a real-world sort of commuter situation. We're going to go out and do a mixture of 25-mile-an-hour roads, 55-mile-an-hour roads, highway. We're going to ride comfortably for most of it, maybe a little bit of spirited riding in there as well, and try to see what sort of fuel economy you can realistically expect. And that's particularly important with the KLX 300 because it's got a fairly small 2-gallon fuel tank, and it does not have a fuel gauge. All it has is a fuel light, so as you get about half a gallon left in the tank, then the fuel light turns on, lets you know you should probably put more fuel in it, but no sort of way of keeping track of how much fuel you've got. So this is going to be useful for you to reset your trip meter and then be able to kind of know how much fuel you've got and how many miles you can go before you need to get more gas. If you do want to see more on the KLX 300, check the link below. We're going to have a full review and a comparison with the Honda CRF 300L, but we also had its sibling, the KLX 300 SM, not too long ago. Now, I don't think we had an opportunity to run the SM on the DM commuter fuel economy test, so this one will kind of sub in for that. And that one has a little bit more favorable gearing for fuel economy as well as smoother tires, which would get better fuel economy as well. So whatever we get with this, I bet you could see a few miles per gallon better on the SM. So without any further ado, I'm going to head to the gas station. I'm going to fill this all the way up. We're going to go out and do those 40 miles or so, come back, fill up at the same pump using the same topping off fuel method, and then get our result. A few other things to note: I have checked the tire pressures here while the bike was cold. They're set at their placard right here, 22 psi for normal load. You can go up to 25 psi in the rear if you're carrying heavy. It's about 60 degrees Fahrenheit here, and I'm going to run, like I said, we're within about 5 miles per hour of the speed limit. And I'm just going to kind of take off casually as though maybe you were riding into the office or school in the morning, something like that. So let's head to the gas station and get this test underway. Quick shout out before I do get rolling. Today I'm wearing my Helite leather jacket because it is a little bit chillier. Might be even colder down by the coast. But it would probably be good to be using the Helite H-Move backpack for most of your riding with the KLX because not much storage. You've got a little bag right here for some tools and manual and documentation, but I highly recommend picking yourself up a Helite airbag backpack if you're going to be riding something like the KLX 300 around daily. It's going to keep you safe and give you a place to put things. And for me, also have water. I like wearing the leather jacket because it looks cool, but not as useful.
You keen-eyed viewers will notice that the lighting is entirely different for this portion of the video, and that is because I went out to shoot the fuel test after shooting the intro, and the gas station that I shoot at was entirely out of fuel. All of the pumps were closed. So, had to delay the test, and then my wife had our baby 2 weeks early, so that delayed the test even further. So here we are, almost probably a month since I shot that first portion of the video. But we're finally getting out to fill this up and do our test. The KLX has a flip top gas cap, which is kind of cool. Doesn't come off like some of its competitors. Just regular 87 octane here for the KLX. And we are topped off. Now, I wouldn't recommend topping off your bike regularly, but for the sake of science, it's what we do for this test so we can get reliable fills, I should say, both times. I should also mention outside temperature today about 65 degrees Fahrenheit, a little chillier. But with that, we're ready to roll. In the meantime, enjoy this time lapse of the entire trip.
Back after a successful fuel test, and like I said at the beginning, dual sports make so much sense as commuter motorcycles. They're lightweight, they're fun to flick around at lower speeds, you sit upright so you can see traffic and traffic can see you. They're generally big bright colors like this, so again, helps for you being seen. And when you're not carving canyon corners and going out on big straightaways, it's really not that big of a deal to only have a single cylinder engine and 30-ish horsepower. Now, if your commute has a lot of highway riding, then yeah, you might want something a little bit more substantial and a little bit more powerful, but for most types of riding, and even the little bits of highway stints that we had in our test, the KLX300 does just fine. Now, after our 42.9 miles of travel, we came back to the pump and put in 0.682 gallons of 87 octane, and that gives us a fuel economy result on our DM commuter test route of 63 mpg. Now, if you're coming from the car world, that is a great figure. However, given the lightweight and fairly aerodynamic, relatively speaking, profile of the KLX300 without having a windshield or anything, although I guess you could argue that a windshield would actually make the bike more aerodynamic, so maybe there's an argument there. But either way, we've seen better figures from bikes like the Honda CRF 300L Rally that got well over 70 miles per gallon in a very similar test. So I was expecting to get at least high 60s out of the KLX 300. Now, we do have the knobby tires, and yeah, maybe the windshield on the CRF 300 Rally would actually help. So next week, we're going to be testing the CRF 300, the 300L, the non-Rally model, and it will be interesting to see if we get upwards of 70 mpg on that one. But 63 is a fine enough figure, but really not that impressive compared to other motorcycles. On top of that, we only have that 2.1 gallon fuel tank in here and no fuel gauge. So 2.1 gallons times that 63 mpg figure is giving you an effective commuter fuel range of only 130 miles. So if you're doing 20 or 30 miles a day, you're going to go through tanks pretty darn quickly. And if it's been a few weeks since you've ridden and you hop on the bike, you're not going to know how much fuel's in it without resetting the trip meter fairly regularly. And even then, it's only going to be a bit of a guess. So all things considered, I liked riding the KLX300 around for a few hours. It does make for a good little bike to ride around town, but it could use a few more creature comforts and kind of daily rider type aids to make it an excellent commuter. But you could do a lot worse, and if you're going to be taking your bike off-road some on the weekends and you do want to have something to ride throughout the week, you can do just fine with the KLX300. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the bike, check the link below. We've got our comparison with the Honda, and we're going to have a full review shot as well. And we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, ride on.